The creation of consciousness is one of the most profound and debated topics in science, philosophy, and neuroscience, while consciousness remains an unresolved mystery. Here are leading perspectives on how it might be created or arise. 1. Biological basis of consciousness. Neural networks. Consciousness is believed to emerge from the complex interactions of neurons in the brain. Specific regions, such as the cerebral cortex, thalamus, and default mode network, play critical roles in generating self-awareness and subjective experiences. Integrated Information Theory, IIT. This theory posits that consciousness arises from systems that integrate information in highly interconnected and complex ways. The brain's ability to process and unify sensory data may create conscious experience. Emergence. Consciousness could be an emergent property of biological systems, similar to how complex patterns arise from simple rules in nature, e.g., ant colonies or weather systems. 2. Quantum consciousness. Penrose-Hameroff orchestrated objective reduction, OR. Some theorists propose that consciousness arises from quantum processes in the brain, particularly within microtubules in neurons. These quantum computations may provide the foundation for awareness. Quantum entanglement. Consciousness might involve non-local quantum phenomena, allowing for connections beyond classical neural activity. 3. Computational and artificial consciousness. Functionalism. This perspective suggests that consciousness is not tied to biological matter but arises from any system capable of processing information in a way similar to the brain. Hypothetically, if a computer system is complex enough and processes data like the human brain, it could exhibit consciousness. Simulations. Advanced AI or simulations might replicate the neural and computational processes required for conscious experience. Substrate independence. Consciousness might emerge regardless of the medium, biological, silicon, or other forms, as long as the processes that enable awareness are replicated. 4. Developmental and evolutionary views. Evolutionary advantage. Consciousness may have evolved to give organisms a survival advantage, enabling them to predict and adapt to their environments. Gradual development. Consciousness likely developed in stages, from basic sensory awareness in simple organisms to the complex self-awareness observed in humans and some animals. 5. Philosophical perspectives. Dualism. Some philosophies, such as those of René Descartes, propose that consciousness is a separate, non-physical substance distinct from the body and brain. Panpsychism. This theory suggests that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, present in all matter to varying degrees. Emergent materialism. Consciousness emerges from physical processes but cannot be fully explained by them, akin to how water has properties, e.g., wetness, that cannot be understood solely by studying hydrogen and oxygen atoms. 6. Experimental studies and theories. Brain-mind correlations. Studies using functional MRI, fMRI, and EEG reveal brain activity patterns associated with conscious thought, such as the global workspace theory, where widely distributed neural activity integrates to create awareness. Neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to rewire itself suggests that consciousness is dynamic and closely tied to neural activity. Anesthesia and sleep. Investigating how and why consciousness fades during sleep or under anesthesia provides clues about its neural mechanisms. 7. Synthetic creation of consciousness. Biological engineering. Advanced biotechnology might one day grow artificial brains or brain-like structures capable of consciousness. AI and machine learning. Sophisticated algorithms and neural networks could theoretically replicate the processes that lead to consciousness. Hybrid systems. Combining biological and artificial components could create new forms of consciousness, e.g., cyborgs or biodigital minds. Challenges in understanding consciousness. Hard problem of consciousness. Philosopher David Chalmers famously framed the hard problem as understanding why and how physical processes in the brain produce subjective experiences. Subjectivity. Consciousness is inherently personal, making it difficult to study objectively. Definition and measurement. Even defining consciousness is contentious, as it spans awareness, self-awareness, and perception. 11. Consciousness and the universe. Cosmos psychism. This idea posits that the universe itself is conscious, with individual beings representing localized expressions of this universal mind. Consciousness as a fundamental property. Similar to space, time, and energy, consciousness might be an intrinsic aspect of the cosmos, present in all matter to varying degrees. Participatory universe. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the observer effect, suggest that consciousness might influence the physical universe, blurring the line between observer and observed. 12. Artificial consciousness. Ethical implications. When does artificial intelligence become conscious? As AI becomes more sophisticated. Distinguishing between advanced computation and genuine consciousness becomes crucial. Ethical treatment of AI. If machines achieve consciousness, do they deserve rights? Should they be protected from harm, exploitation, or termination? Limits of artificial minds. Can an artificial system truly feel, or will it always lack the subjective experiences of biological entities? 13. Mystical and religious perspectives. Soul theories. Many religious traditions view consciousness as linked to a soul or spirit, separate from the body and brain. Universal oneness. Mystical traditions often describe consciousness as a shared essence connecting all life and existence. Consciousness beyond death. Questions about what happens to consciousness after death remain central to spiritual and metaphysical discussions. 14. Experimental approaches to create or alter consciousness. Brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, devices that connect directly to the brain could enhance or replicate consciousness in artificial systems. Neurostimulation. Techniques like transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, or direct brain stimulation can alter conscious states, providing clues about its mechanisms. Consciousness engineering. Future technologies might allow us to design or manipulate conscious experiences, enabling tailored states of awareness. 15. Future frontiers in understanding consciousness. Mapping the mind. Advances in neuroimaging and computational modeling may lead to a complete map of conscious processes. Simulating consciousness. Building virtual models of the brain could help us replicate and study consciousness in controlled settings. Testing the limits. Experiments with altered states of consciousness, e.g., psychedelics. Meditation, or virtual reality, could reveal how flexible and expansive consciousness can be. 16. Consciousness and time. Perception of time. Consciousness appears intrinsically tied to the perception of time. Humans experience time as linear, but some altered states, e.g., meditation, psychedelics, reveal non-linear or timeless experiences. Temporal processing. Research suggests the brain constructs the flow of time by integrating sensory information into coherent sequences. How consciousness organizes these sequences remains an active area of study. Timeless consciousness. Advanced beings or systems might experience consciousness without temporal constraints, existing in states of perpetual now. 17. Consciousness in multidimensional spaces. Higher dimensional awareness. If consciousness is more than a product of 3D space and linear time, it might exist or perceive higher dimensions. Dimensional states. Altered states of consciousness could allow humans to access or simulate awareness in these higher dimensions. Conscious entities in other dimensions. Advanced physics suggests there might be forms of life or awareness that are inherently multidimensional, vastly different from our own. 18. Emergent properties versus fundamental essence. Emergent view. Many scientists believe consciousness is a byproduct of complex interactions, like neural activity or computational processes. Fundamental view. Others argue consciousness is a basic feature of reality, akin to space or energy, and does not emerge, but always exists. Hybrid theories. Some theories attempt to combine these ideas, proposing that consciousness is latent in all systems and emerges when systems reach sufficient complexity. 19. Expanding human consciousness. Technological augmentation, neural implants and brain-computer interfaces could expand human cognitive and sensory capacities, altering what it means to be conscious. Consciousness exploration. Practices like meditation, hypnosis, or psychedelics could help explore uncharted territories of human awareness. Collective consciousness. Technology might also enable shared consciousness among individuals, creating new forms of social and cognitive collaboration. 20. Consciousness in the distant future. Post-biological consciousness. Advanced civilizations might transition from biological to digital or quantum substrates for consciousness. This could ensure survival beyond the limits of the body. Eternal consciousness. Techniques to prevent decay or simulate consciousness indefinitely could lead to immortal minds. Universal consciousness. As intelligence advances, it might aim to integrate with or become one with the universe itself, achieving a form of cosmic awareness. 21. Interdisciplinary challenges in consciousness research. Neuroscience. Understanding the exact neural correlates of consciousness remains a primary goal. Physics. Exploring quantum and relativistic theories might unlock new perspectives on how consciousness interacts with the universe. Artificial intelligence. Building systems that mimic or replicate consciousness challenges our understanding of what it means to be aware. Philosophy. Defining consciousness and grappling with its subjective nature are ongoing intellectual debates. 22. Consciousness and free will. Illusion of free will. Neuroscientific studies suggest decisions may be made subconsciously before we become aware of them, raising questions about free will. Conscious influence. Even if free will is limited, consciousness might still guide or influence certain choices. Ethics of determinism. If consciousness is shaped by deterministic processes, how do we assign moral responsibility? 23. Consciousness and energy requirements. Conscious processes in the brain are energy-intensive, suggesting a link between physical energy and awareness. Energy fields. Some theories propose that consciousness is an energetic phenomenon, possibly related to electromagnetic or quantum fields. Energy efficiency of consciousness. Future systems might optimize or replicate consciousness with significantly lower energy costs. 24. Consciousness and memory. Role of memory. Memory is fundamental to creating a continuous sense of self. Without memory, consciousness might exist in isolated moments without a coherent narrative. Enhanced memory. Technologies to expand or alter memory could reshape conscious experience. Episodic versus procedural consciousness. Different types of memory, e.g., episodic for personal events versus procedural for skills, may correlate with distinct forms of awareness. 25. Ethics of altering consciousness. Enhancement. Is it ethical to augment human consciousness with technology, drugs, or genetic engineering? Manipulation. Governments or corporations could exploit consciousness technologies for control or profit. How do we safeguard autonomy? Creation of new consciousness forms. Ethical frameworks must be developed for creating, modifying, or terminating conscious entities, whether biological or artificial. 26. Consciousness in the context of space and exploration. Consciousness in extreme environments. As humans venture into space or other extreme environments, the nature of consciousness may change due to altered conditions, e.g., weightlessness, isolation, radiation exposure. How might isolation or confinement in space affect self-awareness, cognitive function, and emotional states? Alien consciousness. If we encounter extraterrestrial life, we will likely confront radically different forms of consciousness. How will we recognize and communicate with non-human, potentially non-biological entities? Will we find common ground in the experience of being aware, or will the differences be so vast as to prevent mutual understanding? Consciousness and cosmic perspective. Exposure to the vastness of space might fundamentally shift human consciousness. Astronauts often report profound experiences that alter their worldview. Sometimes described as the overview effect, a deep sense of interconnectedness with the Earth and the universe. Could such experiences reveal new dimensions of consciousness that are otherwise inaccessible on Earth? 27. Consciousness and the concept of reality. Constructed reality. Many philosophies argue that reality is a construct of the mind, with consciousness shaping how we experience the world. This aligns with idealist philosophies like those of George Berkeley, who proposed that material objects exist only in the mind of a perceiver. Simulation hypothesis. The idea that our consciousness might be part of a simulated reality has gained popularity in both philosophical and scientific circles. If our minds are part of a computer-generated environment, how does that impact the nature of consciousness? Are we truly aware, or is our consciousness merely a simulation of awareness? Consciousness as reality shaping. Some theories propose that consciousness can influence or even create reality. This idea is found in quantum mechanics, e.g., the observer effect, and some schools of thought in metaphysics and mysticism, suggesting that conscious observation can collapse possibilities into actual events or outcomes. 28. Consciousness and the future of human evolution. Post-human consciousness. As humans evolve, or as we enhance our biology through genetic engineering and cybernetic augmentations, our consciousness may also transform. Will the future human mind resemble our current experiences, or will it be an entirely different form of awareness, possibly devoid of biological constraints? Neural enhancements. With the advent of technologies like brain-machine interfaces, BMIs, or direct brain-to-brain communication, humanity could potentially evolve to share a collective consciousness. These enhancements could foster a new era of collaboration, empathy, and understanding, or they could lead to the erosion of individualism. Consciousness and aging. Future technologies could enable the preservation or even enhancement of consciousness beyond the natural lifespan of the body. Could humans live indefinitely through digital or mechanical means, preserving their consciousness in new forms? 29. Consciousness and the ethics of immortality. Digital immortality. The idea of uploading consciousness into a digital format has long been a subject of speculation. If consciousness can be separated from the biological body and stored in digital form, does the individual continue to exist? Does the digital version possess true consciousness, or is it simply a sophisticated replica? Moral implications of immortality. If consciousness can be preserved indefinitely, questions of identity, memory, and continuity arise. Would living forever lead to mental stagnation? Or could consciousness evolve with the passage of time? Would immortality be available to all, or just a select few, potentially deepening inequalities? Ethics of memory manipulation. Technologies that allow the editing or erasure of memories could also change the nature of consciousness. If we could selectively forget trauma or alter our memories to be more idealized, would that affect our authenticity or sense of self? 30. Consciousness and the emergence of new life forms. Artificial life forms. Advances in synthetic biology and AI might lead to the creation of entirely new forms of life, with their own versions of consciousness. Could these artificial life forms have the same rights as biological beings, or would they be viewed as subservient creations? Consciousness in non-biological entities. As AI systems grow more complex, the question arises whether they can achieve a form of consciousness similar to that of humans. If AI were conscious, how would society interact with these entities? Would they deserve the same ethical considerations as human beings, or would they be seen as tools for human use? Consciousness beyond carbon-based life. Could consciousness exist in forms radically different from biological life, such as silicon-based life, or even in energy fields or plasma states? Would these entities experience consciousness in a way fundamentally different from our own? '31. The limits of consciousness. Can we ever fully understand it? The hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher David Chalmers has pointed out. The subjective nature of consciousness, what it feels like to experience something, is known as the hard problem. While we may understand the neural correlates of consciousness, its qualia, the individual, subjective experiences, might always remain elusive. The inaccessibility of other minds. Even if we develop sophisticated AI or engage with non-human species, we may never fully comprehend the consciousness of others. The limitations of language, perception, and understanding mean that each mind might always be an island, forever beyond complete access by others. Transcending consciousness. Some theories propose that consciousness is not the end goal, but a stepping stone in an evolutionary process toward transcendent states of awareness, forms of existence that are beyond ordinary experience, potentially merging with the universe or achieving a state of pure being. 32. Consciousness and ethical governance. Regulation of consciousness-altering technologies. As humanity develops technologies that can alter or enhance consciousness, such as neurostimulation or mind uploading, ethical governance becomes crucial. Should these technologies be regulated to prevent misuse, or is it the individual's right to modify their consciousness as they see fit? Social impact. The widespread use of consciousness-altering technologies could reshape society, changing how people relate to each other, form relationships, or even understand their own identities. What would be the ethical responsibility of governments, corporations, and individuals in a world where consciousness is malleable and changeable? Collective consciousness and responsibility. As we move toward increasingly interconnected lives, through technologies like shared virtual spaces, collective neural networks, or even mind-linked groups, the ethical question arises. If we share our consciousness with others, to what extent are we responsible for the collective well-being and actions of this shared awareness? 33. Consciousness and the role of emotions. Emotions as conscious processes. Emotions are often seen as deeply intertwined with consciousness, playing a crucial role in how we perceive and interact with the world. While emotions have a physiological basis, they are also experienced consciously, a subjective state that influences decision-making, memory, and interpersonal interactions. Emotional intelligence and consciousness. High emotional intelligence, EQ, has been linked to a deeper awareness of self and others, suggesting that emotions might be a form of consciousness in themselves. A person with higher EQ can be more attuned to their inner emotional states, enhancing their overall sense of self-awareness and understanding. Artificial emotional consciousness. If artificial beings or AI gain emotional responses, would they experience a form of consciousness that is distinctly different from humans, or would their emotions be a programmed response? Lacking the rich inner experience we associate with human emotion. 34. The link between consciousness and language. Language as a consciousness tool. Language is one of the primary ways humans express their consciousness. The development of language allowed humans to share their subjective experiences, communicate abstract ideas, and build complex societies. Could there be consciousness without language, or is language the very structure of conscious thought? The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. This theory suggests that the language we speak shapes our perception of reality. If consciousness is influenced by language, then different cultures and languages could lead to different ways of experiencing the world. Consciousness without words. Some meditative practices suggest that there is a level of consciousness that transcends language. Non-verbal forms of awareness, e.g., through music, art, or intuition, might provide a different route to understanding reality. How does this shift our perspective on the role of language in shaping conscious experience? 35. Consciousness and collective memory. Cultural consciousness. Cultures develop shared consciousness through collective memory, the ways in which a society remembers and interprets its history. These collective memories shape identity, values, and group consciousness. Social media and collective awareness. In the modern era, social media platforms have allowed for a form of digital collective consciousness. People are increasingly connected to one another, sharing experiences, ideas, and emotions in real time. Does this lead to a new form of consciousness, one that is more collective and distributed than individual? Shared dreams and experiences. There are also anecdotal accounts of people sharing similar dreams or having synchronized experiences, which suggest that collective consciousness may not be limited to the waking world. Is it possible that shared consciousness exists in a subconscious realm that connects all human beings? 36. Consciousness and memory augmentation. The potential for memory enhancement. Technological advancements could allow for the augmentation of memory, making it possible to recall any moment in perfect clarity or even implant false memories. This could drastically change our sense of self, as our memories form the bedrock of our conscious identity. Ethics of memory editing. The ability to alter, remove, or implant memories could present significant ethical dilemmas. Would it be acceptable to erase painful memories, or would this compromise personal growth and healing? How would our legal, social, and emotional systems adapt to the idea of memory manipulation? The future of digital memory. The prospect of uploading memories or consciousness to a digital format opens new possibilities for memory storage and retrieval. Could humans one day transfer their memories to an external, persistent format, allowing them to live on after death or maintain a continuous consciousness across lifetimes? 37. Consciousness and the nature of self. The illusion of the self. Many philosophical traditions and neuroscientific findings suggest that the self we experience may be an illusion, a narrative created by our consciousness to make sense of our complex, ever-changing experiences. If the self is an illusion, then what, truly, is the essence of consciousness? Ego and identity. The ego is often considered the aspect of consciousness that defines the I, our sense of individuality and separateness. But could there be a deeper, collective consciousness in which the ego dissolves, allowing for a direct connection to others and the universe? Consciousness beyond the self. Meditation and other spiritual practices claim that true consciousness can be experienced beyond the self, where the sense of I vanishes and a state of unity with all things is achieved. Does this state of awareness represent a higher form of consciousness, or a regression to a more primal, undifferentiated state? 38. Consciousness and technology, a symbiotic future? The future of human-machine synergy. Rather than separating consciousness from machines, there may be an eventual symbiosis where human consciousness is enhanced or integrated with machines. Neuroprosthetics, brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, and AI may combine to create hybrid forms of consciousness. Could humans and machines coexist as one, with shared experiences and capabilities? Consciousness in a virtual world. As virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, technologies evolve, the lines between the physical world and digital simulations could blur. Would an individual's consciousness in a virtual world be indistinguishable from one in the physical world? Could a person become truly aware in a simulated reality? Consciousness in the Internet of Things, IoT. The IoT connects everyday objects, embedding them with sensors and communication abilities. Could this global network eventually form a distributed consciousness of its own, where the interconnectedness of all objects and data becomes a conscious system? 39. Consciousness and the quest for ultimate knowledge, the role of consciousness in discovering truth. Consciousness is central to all forms of knowledge. From scientific inquiry to philosophical exploration. How do our conscious biases, perceptions, and limitations affect the truths we seek and the ways we interpret the world? The limitations of the human mind. Some philosophers argue that there are limits to what the human mind can comprehend. No matter how advanced our science or technology, we may never be able to fully understand the universe or the nature of consciousness. Transcendence of consciousness. The ultimate quest for knowledge might not be about accumulating more facts, but about transcending the confines of individual awareness. Could there be a higher state of consciousness that allows for an all-encompassing understanding of existence? 41. The neuroscience of consciousness, the neural basis of consciousness. Neuroscientists continue to study how specific brain regions contribute to the experience of consciousness. Theories such as the Global Workspace Theory, GWT, and Integrated Information Theory, IIT, suggest that consciousness arises from complex interactions between neural circuits and information processing. The role of the thalamus. Some research suggests that the thalamus plays a key role in integrating sensory information and directing it to the appropriate parts of the brain for conscious awareness. How exactly this process happens remains a subject of intense study. Altered states of consciousness. Changes in brain chemistry and activity can lead to altered states of consciousness, such as those experienced during sleep, meditation, or under the influence of psychoactive substances. What happens in the brain during these states that causes shifts in perception, awareness, and sense of self? The conscious brain versus the unconscious mind. There is a growing understanding that much of what influences our behavior occurs outside of conscious awareness, driven by unconscious processes like biases, habits, and primal instincts. How do these unconscious mechanisms interact with conscious thought? And what role do they play in our understanding of free will? 42. Consciousness and death. What happens to consciousness? The end of consciousness. What happens to consciousness after death is one of the most profound and unresolved questions in both science and philosophy. Some theories suggest that consciousness ceases to exist when the brain stops functioning, while others explore possibilities like the continuation of consciousness in some form beyond the physical body. Near-death experiences, NDEs. Many people who have experienced clinical death and been revived report vivid, transformative experiences often described as near-death experiences. Some interpretations suggest these experiences are evidence of a consciousness that transcends the physical body, while others believe they may be the result of brain activity during the dying process. Consciousness and the afterlife. Different cultural, religious, and spiritual beliefs offer a wide range of perspectives on the afterlife. Does consciousness persist after death, or does it merge with some larger, universal consciousness? Philosophers have long debated whether consciousness is tied only to the body or whether it can exist independently. Consciousness beyond the body. Emerging research in quantum consciousness and theories like panpsychism, which posits that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, suggests that consciousness might exist in some form outside of the individual. This raises the possibility that consciousness might not be confined to the body and could persist in some other realm or as a part of a collective, universal mind. 43. Artificial consciousness and the ethics of creation. The Turing test and consciousness. The Turing test, proposed by Alan Turing, asks whether a machine can exhibit behavior indistinguishable from a human being. But passing the Turing test doesn't necessarily mean a machine has achieved true consciousness, just that it can mimic conscious behavior convincingly. What would it mean for a machine to truly experience the world? Building conscious AI. The question of whether machines can become conscious is a major topic in AI research. Some researchers believe that it is possible to create AI with true consciousness, while others argue that consciousness is inherently tied to biological processes and cannot be replicated in machines. The ethics of conscious machines. If we were to create an artificial consciousness, what rights or responsibilities would we have toward it? Could an AI with self-awareness be exploited or harmed? Should it have the same moral considerations as a human being, and if so, what would those look like? AI consciousness and emotional intelligence. If machines develop emotions, would their experiences be authentic or simulated? Can an AI that understands emotions be said to feel, or would it merely be imitating human responses based on programming? 48. The evolution of consciousness. From biological to digital. Biological evolution of consciousness. Consciousness has evolved alongside the complexity of living organisms. From the basic awareness of single-celled organisms to the sophisticated self-awareness of humans, biological evolution has shaped the consciousness we experience today. How might consciousness continue to evolve biologically in future generations? Could natural selection lead to new forms of cognitive abilities and awareness? The rise of digital consciousness. As we integrate more technology into our daily lives, there is the possibility that digital forms of consciousness may emerge. From brain-machine interfaces to advanced AI, we may soon create systems that possess their own form of awareness. Could this be the next evolutionary step, moving from biological to digital consciousness? Consciousness and synthetic life forms. Synthetic biology and bioengineering might one day enable the creation of entirely new life forms, which could possess unique forms of consciousness. These forms might not be based on carbon and DNA, but on alternative biochemistry. Could they experience a type of awareness similar to or entirely different from human consciousness? Post-human consciousness. The advent of technologies like brain uploading and cognitive enhancement may lead to a post-human era, where consciousness exists outside of the biological body. What might post-human consciousness look like, and how would it change our understanding of self and existence? Would these digital or enhanced minds still be human, or would they belong to a new category entirely? 49. Consciousness and the nature of time. The experience of time in consciousness. Our subjective experience of time is central to how we perceive reality. Neuroscience suggests that the brain constructs our experience of time, But how does the mind process the flow of time? Is the experience of now an illusion? And does the perception of time change in different states of consciousness, like dreaming, meditating, or under the influence of psychedelics? The timelessness of consciousness. Some spiritual and philosophical traditions suggest that true consciousness transcends time. Could it be that time, as we perceive it, is merely a product of the brain's interpretation of sensory data, while consciousness itself exists outside the confines of linear time? Time perception in artificial consciousness. If AI or synthetic consciousness were to develop, how might it experience time? Would machines experience time in the same way as humans, or would their awareness be structured differently, potentially existing in a timeless, non-linear fashion, or experiencing time at an accelerated rate? Quantum time and consciousness. The concept of time in quantum mechanics is mysterious. Some theories propose that consciousness might be able to access quantum states of reality, where time is not fixed and events may exist in superposition. Could understanding quantum time unlock deeper insights into the nature of consciousness? 50. Consciousness and the unconscious. The hidden mind, the power of the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind holds memories, desires, and impulses that influence our conscious thoughts and behavior, while much of the unconscious remains inaccessible to us. Psychoanalysis and modern psychology aim to uncover its contents. How does the unconscious interact with the conscious mind, and can we truly access all aspects of our mental life? The role of dreams in consciousness. Dreams provide a glimpse into the unconscious mind, often revealing hidden thoughts, fears, and desires. Are dreams an essential component of consciousness, serving as a processing tool for our waking lives? Could they hold the key to deeper self-awareness or offer a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms? Collective unconscious. Carl Jung proposed the idea of a collective unconscious, a shared layer of the unconscious mind that transcends individual experience. Could this shared unconscious connect all human beings, or even extend beyond humans to all living beings? Could there be an analogous, collective consciousness that influences our shared experiences, memories, and understanding of reality? The unconscious mind in AI and machines. Just as humans have unconscious mental processes, could AI or machines also develop an unconscious-like aspect? For example, would an AI's algorithms and decision-making processes create an unconscious layer that influences its conscious actions, or could it remain entirely transparent and rational? 51. Consciousness and the illusion of free will. The debate over free will. Philosophers have long debated whether free will is an illusion. Some argue that our choices are determined by genetic, environmental, and neural factors, while others believe we have the capacity to make independent choices. How does our understanding of consciousness shape our views on free will? Can we truly act freely, or are we simply experiencing the result of predetermined processes? Consciousness and determinism. The concept of determinism holds that all events, including human thoughts and actions, are determined by prior causes. If everything is determined, how does consciousness fit into the equation? Are we simply the product of a chain of causality? Or does consciousness allow us to break free from these constraints? Quantum mechanics and free will. Some have proposed that the indeterminacy of quantum mechanics offers room for free will. If particles behave in probabilistic ways at the quantum level, could this create space for conscious minds to influence their decisions in ways that are not strictly deterministic? The role of self-awareness. Could the very experience of being conscious, being aware of ourselves as agents who can act and make choices, be the essence of free will? If we experience the illusion of choice, does that matter for our lived experience? Is the subjective sense of agency enough to fulfill our idea of free will? even if our decisions are influenced by unconscious or external factors. 52. Consciousness and the boundaries of knowledge, the limits of human consciousness, as our understanding of the brain. The universe and consciousness itself deepens. We might encounter limits to human knowledge and perception. What happens when we reach the boundaries of our cognitive abilities? Is there a point beyond which our conscious minds cannot comprehend, no matter how advanced our tools or theories become? The expansion of human consciousness. One potential avenue for expanding consciousness is through technological augmentation. Could tools like neural enhancements, mind-computer interfaces, or drugs allow us to exceed the natural limits of human consciousness? Would such expansions offer new dimensions of knowledge, or would they come with unforeseen risks and challenges? Consciousness as the final frontier. If consciousness is the ultimate experience of being, could it be the final frontier of human exploration? While we have sent humans to the moon and explored the depths of the oceans, the inner space of consciousness may be the most profound frontier of all. Could future humans journey to the edges of consciousness, discovering new realms of perception, experience, and understanding? 53. Consciousness and the search for meaning, the quest for purpose. Throughout history, humans have sought to understand the purpose and meaning of their existence. Consciousness plays a key role in this search, allowing us to reflect on our lives, our goals, and the larger universe. How does consciousness help us find meaning in a seemingly chaotic world? Existentialism and consciousness. Existentialist philosophers like Sartre and Camus suggested that consciousness is the source of meaning-making in an indifferent universe. If life has no inherent purpose, then it is up to each individual to create meaning through their choices and actions. How does this existential view shape our experience of consciousness? Consciousness and spirituality. Many spiritual traditions argue that the ultimate purpose of consciousness is to attain enlightenment or union with a higher power. Could consciousness itself be the key to understanding our place in the cosmos? How did different spiritual paths interpret the role of consciousness in the search for meaning and transcendence? The nature of suffering and consciousness. Consciousness also brings with it the awareness of suffering, loss, and mortality. How does the human mind cope with the inevitability of death, pain, and uncertainty? Is it possible to transcend suffering through expanded consciousness, or is it an inescapable part of the human experience? 54. The intersection of consciousness, culture, and society. Culture as a shaper of consciousness. The cultural contexts in which we live deeply influence how we experience consciousness. From the languages we speak to the traditions we follow, culture shapes our thoughts, beliefs, and sense of self. Could different cultures lead to distinct forms of consciousness, or is there a universal experience of being? 56. Consciousness and the exploration of other dimensions, the multiverse and consciousness. Some theories in cosmology suggest the existence of a multiverse, where an infinite number of parallel universes exist alongside our own. Could consciousness transcend the boundaries of our universe, potentially tapping into multiple realities or dimensions? How might this idea reshape our understanding of the mind? If consciousness exists beyond our current physical universe, could there be different levels or modes of awareness in these other realities? Dimensional consciousness. Could consciousness itself be a multi-dimensional phenomenon, while we experience consciousness in a three-dimensional space? Could there be higher dimensional aspects of consciousness that we are currently unaware of? These higher dimensions might hold secrets about how our consciousness works, or how it connects to the larger fabric of the universe. Consciousness beyond time and space. Some spiritual and metaphysical traditions suggest that consciousness exists beyond the confines of space and time. In these views, Consciousness is not confined to the physical realm, but is a timeless, boundless force that connects all things. How might this perspective change our understanding of the self, the universe, and the nature of reality? Could it also provide insight into life after death or other existential questions about existence? 57. Consciousness and artificial life forms. Ethical considerations, AI and ethical consciousness. As AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, the possibility of creating conscious machines raises ethical questions. Should machines that exhibit signs of self-awareness have the same rights and protections as humans? What moral obligations do creators of AI have toward their creations, especially if those machines are capable of experiencing pain, joy, or other forms of subjective experience? Simulated consciousness. What happens if we simulate consciousness in machines, either through digital means or by using synthetic biology? Could creating a machine with a consciousness that mimics human experience be morally equivalent to creating a human being? Would such an entity be entitled to the same moral consideration? The moral status of non-human consciousness. If machines, animals, or even alien life forms are capable of experiencing consciousness, how do we decide their moral standing? The ethics of consciousness may push humanity to broaden its concept of moral agency and responsibility to include non-human entities that can suffer or thrive. How might this challenge human exceptionalism and the hierarchical divisions between different forms of consciousness? 58. Consciousness in the age of genetic engineering. Designer consciousness. With the advent of genetic engineering, we may one day be able to modify the genetic code that shapes consciousness itself. Could we design beings with enhanced, expanded, or even altered states of consciousness? What might be the consequences of designing a mind that experiences reality in radically different ways? Genetic modifications and cognitive enhancement. By altering the genetic makeup of humans or animals, could we boost cognitive abilities, extending the boundaries of consciousness? Would such enhancements bring about positive societal change? Or could they create a divide between enhanced and natural forms of consciousness? Consciousness in genetically engineered species. If we create genetically engineered species with higher levels of cognitive ability, how would we treat them? Would they be considered conscious beings? And would they be entitled to the same rights as humans? This issue will become increasingly pressing as our ability to alter life on a genetic level improves. 62. Consciousness and the ultimate question. What is the nature of being? The hard problem of consciousness. Philosopher David Chalmers coined the term, the hard problem of consciousness, which refers to the difficulty in explaining why and how subjective experience arises from physical processes in the brain. Despite advances in neuroscience, this problem remains unsolved. Could the key to understanding consciousness lie in a completely new framework of thought? One that goes beyond current scientific paradigms? Consciousness and the meaning of life. Many philosophical and spiritual traditions propose that consciousness is the key to understanding the meaning of life. If consciousness is the lens through which we experience existence, could the ultimate purpose of life be to expand and deepen our awareness? What happens when we understand consciousness not just as a biological function, but as a transformative experience that transcends our individual lives? The future of consciousness understanding. In the coming centuries, will science, technology, and philosophy converge to answer the most profound questions about consciousness? Or will consciousness remain a mystery, a question that pushes the boundaries of human thought and invites continual exploration? As we continue to search for answers, consciousness may reveal itself in unexpected ways, altering the course of human history and our understanding of existence itself. 63. Consciousness and the intersection of mind and matter, the mind-body problem. One of the central issues in philosophy of mind is the mind-body problem. How do mental states, thoughts, feelings, experiences arise from physical processes in the brain? Despite centuries of debate, we still don't have a clear answer. Could consciousness be an emergent property of neural activity? Or is there something fundamental about it that cannot be reduced to physical processes? Panpsychism. Panpsychism is the idea that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, much like space, time, or matter. According to this view, everything, from electrons to trees to humans, has some form of consciousness. If panpsychism is correct, what would that mean for our understanding of the world? Does every entity in the universe experience consciousness in some way, or are there different types of consciousness that vary in complexity? Quantum consciousness, quantum mechanics, which governs the behavior of particles at the smallest scales, has been proposed as a potential key to understanding consciousness. Some scientists, such as Roger Penrose, have suggested that consciousness may involve quantum processes in the brain. Could quantum superposition or entanglement play a role in the subjective experience of being? If consciousness operates at the quantum level, could it have properties that transcend classical physical laws? The brain as a receiver of consciousness. Another theory suggests that the brain is not the origin of consciousness, but rather a receiver or transmitter of a universal consciousness. This idea has roots in ancient traditions and in modern theories such as those put forward by physicist David Bohm, who proposed a holo movement, an underlying non-local reality that the brain taps into. If this view is correct, what are the implications for human experience and our sense of self? 64. Consciousness and non-human intelligence. Animal consciousness. Much of our understanding of consciousness has been based on human experience, but what about non-human animals? Many animals exhibit complex behaviors that suggest they are aware of their environment and may even have a sense of self. How does animal consciousness compare to human consciousness? And how can we measure it? The ethics of animal consciousness. As we learn more about the cognitive abilities of animals, ethical questions arise about how we treat them. If animals experience pain, fear, and joy, do they deserve moral consideration? Should they be granted rights? And how might our understanding of their consciousness shape policies surrounding animal welfare and conservation? Alien consciousness. If intelligent extraterrestrial life exists, what might their consciousness be like? Would alien beings experience the world in radically different ways than humans, based on their biology, culture, or environment? How might their minds process information, perceive time, or relate to other forms of consciousness? Synthetic consciousness and non-biological life. As we venture into the realm of artificial intelligence and synthetic biology, we may create entities that are not biologically based but exhibit signs of intelligence and awareness. If we succeed in creating synthetic consciousness, how would these new forms of life compare to human or animal consciousness? Would they experience the world in a fundamentally different way? 65. Consciousness and spiritual awakening. Enlightenment and expanded consciousness. Many spiritual traditions, particularly in Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and Hinduism, emphasize the possibility of achieving enlightenment, a state of heightened awareness and spiritual awakening. How does such an awakened state alter one's consciousness? Can enlightenment lead to the dissolution of the ego and a direct experience of oneness with the universe? Psychedelics and consciousness expansion. Certain substances, like psychedelics, have been known to induce altered states of consciousness. Some argue that psychedelics offer a glimpse into deeper, hidden layers of reality. providing profound insights into the nature of self and existence. Could such experiences lead to long-term spiritual awakening or transformative shifts in consciousness? Mystical experiences. Many individuals report mystical experiences where they feel a profound connection to the universe, often described as transcendent or numinous. These experiences may be perceived as evidence of higher levels of consciousness. How can we understand these experiences within the context of modern science, and what do they suggest about the nature of consciousness itself? Meditation and mindfulness. Practices such as meditation and mindfulness aim to quiet the mind and achieve a state of pure awareness. These techniques are said to allow individuals to experience consciousness without the usual distractions and mental chatter. What happens to consciousness when the mind is still? Can meditation lead to an awakening of latent mental faculties or deeper layers of consciousness?